Folks, we are going to continue cartography for the Eberron adventure we're publishing on DMsGuild, Crystals of Mabar. So give me a moment here to punch my signal, and then we'll get into this for a couple hours. So hold on real fast. Let's see. Live and direct. Let's see where we're at. Live and direct. Check. Check. That sounds good. Cool. Okay, if you follow me on Twitter, I've just published that I'm live on Twitter. I'm at Phil Kearney, like in my description down below. I'm going to finish punching through my signal here real quick, and then we'll get to work. So, my name is Phil Kearney. Hi. I create our role-playing game supplement PDFs that I publish online. Currently, I focus my attention on 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. There is a slew of links in the description down below of various books that I have already produced previously. Just maybe, if you click on any of them, they'll lead you into the product page, and you can open up the documents to take a look at. There's maybe about 150 some odd different illustrations between the books that I have listed down there that you're welcome to peruse through, as well as all the books all being 100% free preview. So if you're on a mobile phone and you click into one of those titles, on mobile, you'll see an eye icon on the right-hand side of the screen, and if you are on a tablet or a desktop, and if you go into each specific page, each specific book, you'll see the book cover, much like you see here, and then underneath that, you would see a link that says full preview. So whether you click full preview or the eye icon on your device, it'll throw open a PDF. You can read everything that I've produced 100% cover to cover. If you're a D&D enthusiast and if you like how this content looks and you think it might be useful to your own game, your own table, certainly I would encourage you to purchase it if you play it. If you're just an art enthusiast, enjoy the pretty pictures. So either chance, we are going to get done, up and running here in just a hot second. So I'm going to arrange my windows, like, subscribe, hit bell for the channel to help boost the signal. And we're going to go ahead and get into this. So here's a book cover we created. I think it was back around episode 40 that we produced this. I'm not sure. You'll have to check the Eberron playlist that we have here on my channel to double check that. But this is the map that we've been continuing to work on. It is a monster 74-inch by 74-inch map space. By far the largest map I've ever produced commercially, and it has been a pleasure to produce. So right now we are still working on the water flow from the flooded tunnel through the stone the limestone gaps into the flooded region of the underground dungeon, and we've been working on these currents, like a water current that's coming in from these sources leading down into the pit, but it keeps pushing water, so the water has to go somewhere. So the currents are demonstrating where the water is going, this way as well as this way, which become decisions that your character can make for which pathway they want to go to. So we've been cleaning up the visuals of these to make them look better. And hey, Dennis, it's good to see you. So I'm going to set a timer here, and we're going to attack this for about 100 minutes today. See if we can see where we can get with the water line. So had a wonderful weekend with my gal. I feel emotionally recharged to attack my week. I shan't have martial power Monday today. I've got a dentist to go to instead. They're going to power through some of my teeth. We are going to instead have martial powers on Tuesday this week, tomorrow. But I should be on... normally I stream on Mondays and Thursday nights as well. So I'm going to be working again on refining the language used in the Spelljammer supplement that we've been creating to try to simplify and lock down the process of moving from one map to another to demonstrate changing scales of combat, which has proven to be more of a challenge than I had originally anticipated. It's big problem with the big problem with writing a document without the illustrations being built like literally at the same time is like you write the text, you get the edits, you get it back from page layouts, you put the illustrations in. That's the typical process. In this instance, the visual elements that we had used to, excuse me for a second here, I'm seeing a little twitch here. There's a gap right here that's just driving me nuts at the moment. But yeah, you write the thing, and then when you start visualizing with illustrations and diagrams and stuff, you're like, wait a second, what I'm trying to depict here isn't actually being properly, like, isn't technically being expressed in the words. So then I'm gonna go back and I gotta change the words, which makes me change the pictures, which makes me change the words. It's this back and forth process that's honestly is driving me insane. This 4-page block of text in this 100-page document. I've literally been choking on it for a week, and it's frustrating. But once it is resolved, we should be pretty smooth sailing to be able to kick through the rest of that document smoothly. Water. So I'm very thankful that I've got both this project and that Spelljammer project going on at the same time, because when I want to tear my hair out on one of them, I can switch gears and work on the other. So we're working on Eberron this morning, and we'll probably work on NPC illustrations for Spelljammer later on tonight, after I've had a chance to hopefully resolve the technical issue I've been having with the document, and thus be ridiculously excited about talking about Eberron. Other than that, otherwise, I'll just be tearing out my hair some more, and it'll be another opportunity for me to step away from the project for a moment and hide in the solace of character art. What are you talking about over here? Let's see. Let me line up my screen a little bit better. Cool. Need to set a timer. Tell myself to take time to write paint minis. Ooh, nice. Make terrain on maps, nice. Not as good as yours. No, just don't worry about it. Use Dungeon Scrawl myself, but I'm not an artist. It's like, I mean, you could arguably the real debate can come down to is quality versus invested time, right? So I've been smashing on this map this is the 25th session on this specific map, and we got like over 100 some odd episodes in general. So it's like, I'm producing these things myself as just part of a training process for me to figure out how to properly create colorized maps for ongoing products, whether they're going to be Eberron, other D&D assets, or some other game altogether. There's purpose and value in me doing this by hand in this whole processing here. But when I'm at my home game, I just use stick figures and squares. It's dreadful, the kind of maps that the kind of crap maps I use in my own personal games. I am inspired to share with you my Roll20 map. If I'm not logged in, I'll skip it, but if I'm logged into Roll20, fuck, I'm not logged in. Hold on. The power of punch compels me, so give me a hot second here. Okay, cool. So I can sign in safely and not show my stuff, so... Hey, Roll20 is glad I'm back. Just taking a quick tangent here. God, I've got 6,800 hours logged of gameplay on Roll20 so far. That is ridiculous. Let's see, Endless Days. Let's launch the Endless Day campaign. This is my hey, what's up, Dream Dragon? It's good to see you, my man. This is the quote unquote high level mapping assets that I use. That I use at my own. This is an 18th level campaign that we're running, and these are my heroes here and here that are currently running around inside this dungeon. And then they're fighting a bunch of Neogi and Umber Hulks. But this is the kind of quality of game that I play in my own table, because, and I talk about this occasionally. My philosophy basically is if you can tell where planned adventuring starts and improvised ad hoc begins, I'm throwing you out of the suspension of disbelief. Like, if you can't believe how crappy these maps are in general all the time, you'll never know when I'm actually just freewheeling it or this is something I've planned for months. Because sometimes I just have to completely switch gears on the fly, you know. So it's there is no harm or foul working on different levels of quality. It's just whatever you need for your team. And the Descent into Avernus vehicle playtest, of course, I always love showing off, because this is where we were doing a lot of the vehicle combat mechanics. Right now we've got the Lyzaraxis queued up, where we were doing the space combat stuff over the Citadel of Light at the... this is the 1 mile scale here, where the butterfly fits inside of 1 square. Let me see, you guys can see this. Yeah. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 10 squares by 10 squares at the 500-foot scale. So that's a mile, basically a mile. And then you can see that at the 50-foot scale, we have 5-foot squares as well inside of these 500-foot, 50-foot. 1 mile total, 500-foot squares here, and then these are 50-foot squares inside of here for these little fighter craft that we use in the game. And then we have the full Citadel here. So I mean, this is how my more professional work looks like inside of a virtual tabletop space. It's still a little rough, but it works pretty good. So I'm anticipating the same quality for when this map gets completed. So yeah. So I mean, it's use whatever tool is the most convenient for you to be able to the results that you need for the game that you want your players to be inside of. So as a professional project, obviously there's a high standard. If people are going to spend money on this, and God willing they will, then I need to be able to provide professional assets. I can't just throw together stick figure stuff. Having said that, though, the black and white version, which is meant for easy printing, is ridiculously minimalist. So at the same time, I can provide lush assets, and then also provide you with like a dummy simple version that you could just sketch out yourself if you wanted to, if you're on VTT, or just, well, this is intended for, we've talked about this in previous sessions about breaking this up into 10 by 7, like 10 by 16 chunks of space that you can print out on a legal page, 11 by 17. I like using those. I am a 100% VTT kind of guy, but I played in meat space for decades before the rise of Roll20. So I get wanting to have that in play, and I don't want to cut off that access to people that do play in meat space. So we provide these cut up map spaces for people to be able to integrate that into their tabletop if they want. So just trying to accommodate the different ways of play and stay true to the roots, you know? But I'm happy with how those are sitting right now, except that we're not supposed to have a dark edge like that unless it's a concave shape. If it's concave, like, let's do that again. If it's concave like this, we can have dark shadow. If it's convex like this, we don't have any shadow. Those are the rules that we've established for the cartography inside of this map, so it's important that I stick with it. And I'm horrible about checking chat, so don't mind me for ignoring. Yep. My foundry kind of right. That door, the black and white one looks really nice as well. It has a really neat feel. Yeah, just super clean, super simple, minimal requirements from your printer is a huge factor, because not everyone uses a laser printer to be able to cut out like the burn in the black images. But I like to do just strictly black image. If you do have a laser printer, super simple. If you don't, then the cost of just black ink, I want to minimize that because that's just expensive and it's obnoxious. But I'm a diehard Roll20 fan, so with DMsGuild integrating using that asset, I'm only incentivized to stick inside of that machinery. But when we finally get this map done, we'll be able to move on to the initial village that the team shows up to. If you use the default plot hook for this adventure, being deputized by Carnathi outriders, basically the free range sheriff that works the land, that maintains the peace between the Carnwood and Talenta Plains. That's a long stretch of basically Wyoming or Montana stretch of farmland that has a significant halfling and velociraptor problem right now. So they've generally got their hands full. And the way that this adventure is set up is that there's a bunch of refugee camps of displaced retired soldiers or people who have been displaced by late game warfare between the Five Nations in Eberron. So there's an obscure mix of Southern Carnathi and Sire survivors from the last morning that may well wish to stay off of any official government radar. Like location unknown is best for a lot of these people. Some of them are expats, some of them are deserters from the army. In any case, they want to stay off the radar of government. So there's a bunch of unofficial refugee villages that are starting to crop up, pardon the pun, but crop up because there's tons of land open for farming right now throughout Carnath. And the nation needs food production, so they're not really putting a close eye on who is running farms right now. Once society stabilizes again, they may begin cracking down on the identity of who's established. But that's an opportunity for people to start over, establish a new community, and if they can be productive, then they may be able to just remain off the grid because of the production that they're providing. Give it 40 years from now, and that kind of questionable legality is probably going to get swept up by larger organizations that are buying out these smaller villages over time. But we're still in the pioneering stage of repopulating Carnath. So they ain't picky about it, but they also are really busy. So when a random illegal refugee camp is having such a bad time that they have to actually reach out to the authorities for assistance, it could just be drama capping and they don't have time for that crap, or B, it could be serious business. And if it is, they don't want anyone official looking at it, because then it becomes an official conversation about who's there, why, and what problems are being cropped up. So it's actually easier for sheriffs to recruit adventuring party mercenary types that are on the good side of the law, that are in good standing, perhaps like veterans themselves that can understand where these people are coming from. And that's where your team comes in. That you've been deputized, so you get a badge, and it's like a minor artifact. It gives you the authority to question anybody that identifies as Carnathi citizens, which comes in handy later on in the campaign when you start running into mercenaries that are doing questionable work, that are questioning their own motives at that point. And it's nice to see an authority figure step in to say, yeah, this is something we're concerned about what's going on inside this adventure, because depending on how you're working with or against the mercenaries, you could be picking up conversations and access to locations that you may have to either stealth into or fight your way into. But if you can work that social pillar of working the authority that you have with people that are just trying to make an honest living doing merc work, that opens up an opportunity for you at the back end of this to pick up mercenaries or to pick up new contracts to do mercenary work yourself. So hold on, I gotta fix my seat. My cushions are falling off. So I gotta fix my cushions. So this is late in the adventure. After, where am I? Hello? There I am. Hi. Holy biscuits. Right. So that's kind of the. I've been working on this thing for years. That's the kind of thoughts that I have about what's going on inside this game, and a lot of that gets expressed inside of the adventure itself, like these like what do different mercenaries know? What are they willing to give you access to? If you can get friendly with them in disposition, that sort of thing. Just using the rules of the game to be able to drive those conversations as a role-playing opportunity. And I'm really big into kingdom building. Like, love that stuff. So any chance to pick up mercenaries, or like you could take this facility over and make it your own lair and deal with all the crap that's gonna, like, all the people that are interested in showing up here because of the unusual necromantic features of the location. It becomes desirable for undesirables to come track it down for the resources they could potentially gain off of it, which becomes a point of adventure for the characters if they want to have that style of play where they're taking control of different places to create bases of operation. I love bases of operation in my games. Just like as fast as I can get you into them, I want you to take one over. Because it becomes part of the team, really. And if you don't use it as a hostage against the players, that they can safely move away from it and go adventure and come back to it safely, then it becomes a great touchstone as just like if you do episodic stuff, is you're hanging out in your fortress and here's the next thing that comes up. It's a really great style of play. It goes all the way back to the expert box set in the 78 or whatever year that was. 81? I don't remember, but I loved it. It was cool. I think I'm happy with those. These are a little unimaginative here, but that's okay. I got bigger fish to fry. Ugh, God, I hate these, by the way. I'm still not happy with any of these, so let's keep working these until I'm satisfied, and we'll move on to the next thing. Yep. It'll be 100% preview, but you'll get all the map assets and stuff on it. And thank you. That's really sweet. I appreciate the support. I'm not sure what the future of DMsGuild and D&D Beyond and all that stuff is, but if we're going to continue to be invited to produce content, then Eberron is my default favorite campaign setting. So I already have another adventure that I want to build that will be similar in structure as this one, like with the different pathing issues, and like I like to have, like, moving from one act to another, I like to have like different physical means of moving from one act to another, and each act is separated by physical presence. Like, these maps are in second act, these maps are in the third act, so you can move back and forth between the acts depending on where you're physically located and where you try to go. And I like adventures where you need to backtrack, or have reason. You don't need to, but have reason to backtrack to locations that you've been before. Like, as you learn more information, in a very like Metroid Zelda sort of Castlevania, Metrovania sort of way, where if you gain access to some information or resources, then going back to another location is useful. It can yield more results for you. So the next Eberron event, assuming that we're able to, I'll probably chill. This will probably be done by the end of the year, which is sad to say that it's going to take so long. But again, it's, the pixels must flow, and we technically don't have any deadlines other than those that we set for ourselves, and it's still in edits. So it'll be a while, but I certainly need to get the work done, and doing it on screen is the best way to make sure that I'm putting the hours in, that I can hold myself accountable. Like with the Spelljammer book, like when I'm intimidated by the process that I'm in, I can own that and continue. Like, I have to figure out a way to move forward. So again, I like bouncing between two different products at the same time, so that I don't get forced into a corner, that I can continue being productive on a project or other projects, while allowing my heart to resolve the conflict that I'm having that's preventing me from moving forward. Generally, I find if you're producing a work and like everything play tests well and everything sorts out, but then you start running into a problem like how to express it, it's probably because you're in my case making it too difficult. And so the more I can be relaxed and let myself really get to the core of what exactly am I trying to express here, I can find what has been grinding my gear, and most likely it's just an obstacle that doesn't need to be there. So once I can hitch over that stone, it tends to open up the document to be able to move much faster. So it's this whole process of streaming online all this art and the cartography and stuff. It's just, when I built the Color Mana Spellpoint variant rule system, I had a work docket of about 60 color illustrations that I needed to produce. And that was intimidating. I've never done a project that large previous to that. So I'm like, how am I going to get this done in a sensible time frame? So I started streaming every day, and I got it done like in 2 months. It's ridiculous. So the Muse was really running the show on that one. God bless her. But and I had a relationship wrecking amount of time invested in producing it. So this time around, I am attempting to have a little bit better work-life balance, so that when I finish this, I still have somebody to celebrate it with. So far, so good. Yeah, you can't overly obsess on something. People will tolerate that crap to a degree because you're an artist, but at some point, you really just got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself with, exercising and getting sunlight, eating well, getting sleep. Instead of just overly obsessing over whatever creation is bashing its way out of your brain. Words of wisdom from a broken man. I enjoy creating these assets online. I like the conversation. I like the opportunity to show what we're doing. And Eberron is just needs more third-party content attention. It's being quote unquote trapped on the DMsGuild, as it were, as a D&D IP. I don't think people are really as motivated as they could be to produce more Eberron adventure content. So I just think there's a big hole in the market that it's probably the only good business decision I've ever made to consider catering to the Eberron audience. I love Eberron. It's my favorite setting. So it's I think I got some legitimate value in adding to the library of work available for Eberron in general. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling there. Don't mind me. I think I'm okay with these curves like that. That looks good. That looks good. You can leave that like that. Okay, so I think we've reached a place where we're good with these cascading steps into the pit. So we'll come back and we'll fix this flooded tunnel to have the similar topography as we've developed for the larger mass in general. But right now, so we've got the here's our just like our initial like oil slick of water and just changing values across it. And then we have the undercurrent of all the swirling muck that's at the bottom of the water. And then we have the currents that wash over it. So we're going to continue now that we've gotten these steps cascaded in and the gentle current rolling out of the central pit. We now can work on this central pit and this central pit. We'll work on this one first. But once we get these waves from here to here and here to here, once we get a logical rippling going throughout here to fill in this space and fill in that space, we'll be done with those areas. Then we can move outside of those, finish the interior wall stuff that we've been building here. And then once those are built, we start adding in all the texture and grit for the crystals and the different types of fungus and stuff that grow inside of this Mabarite zone. So we're hoping to get to that this week. I've said that for like 2 weeks. Get real, Kearney. So anyway, don't hate on yourself. Let's just build. I'm gonna build some swirly stuff. Yeah, I'm really thrilled to have found that to find that effect. Like this whole process of colorizing a map is creating a visual language where the symbolism of like the map key, like objects, kind of intercept the look of like the illustration aspect of it. You know, it's not just technical symbols and stuff. It's the drawing, like painting the environment, kind of blends the iconography of the mapping system with with like painting environments. So, God, I'm stumbling over my words. Don't mind me. Right now I have no intent or purposes. I'm just trying to make smooth lines. I'm letting the muse decide where the ripples go and how they're going to interact, which may end up in a lot of erasing, but I trust her guidance. She's been guiding my hand through the entire project so far. So do you use a tablet? Yes I do. And are you doing this? I know people that could do this by mouse. But I use a really small, shitty 6x9 Wacom Intuos, Wacom Intuos Pro 4, I think. It's like $200 at Best Buy here in America. I have a Best Buy about a block away from where I live. So, and they have like 4 in stock right now. So if my tablet were to break, I'd have to take an hour, I'd have to stop work for an hour, go grab the tablet, reinstall a new one, and get back up and running. So I have it's a cheap production. I don't see well, so I can't use the Cintiqs, like the actual monitors, because I'd have to get the pen in working with my face, because I'd have to be like this. I can't get the pen to work. I use a 32-inch Acer production monitor. I think it's like a P407. I don't remember the exact serial number. But it's the same type of monitor and the same dimensions that they use in the page layouts department of newspapers. So it's a really high self-correcting. It color corrects by itself, which I need because I don't see any color. So it's important that I have machinery that is going to assure me that what I see is what gets printed, which the industry, like the printing industry, relies on that type of monitor now. So it was worth the $1,400 investment to get it. So it's even at 32 inches, like it's like right here, like this is the edge of my screen. So it's like that is, this length here is how far away I am from the 32-inch monitor that I'm working on. That's how blind I am. And you'll still see me leaning in to see what it is exactly I'm trying to do. But I was born with components missing from my retina, so I don't have any color vision, and I have really poor image resolution. Like I can't zoom in on something when I look at it with my eye. I have to physically walk to it for it to get closer. So glasses don't change how far away I can zoom in on things. I'm kind of locked in on this, which is good news because it's not likely to get much worse in time. I'm nearly 50, and it's as bad as it's gonna get, basically. So there's solace there that I don't have to worry about, macular degeneracy or anything like that taking away my ability to see at all, which would make me cry 1,000 years as an artist. But I started off with about as bad a hand as I'm gonna get, and ever since then I've been bluffing my way into winning some chips, So it's very simple rig designed to my gear is designed to be easily replaceable, to not be too exotic. If I can work with shitty simple tools, then I can rely on my skill. Speaking of skill, this is garbage. Let's reassess how I'm living my life there. I'm gonna fill this in with some more. Yeah, so because I have to be so close, I can't get the monitor. Like, I can't have a large piece of board, so I have to have like this tiny little machine, like this tiny little board. It's smaller than my keyboard. So I've got the edge of my desk, and then I've got my Cintiq, or my Intuos that sits here, and then I've got my keyboard that actually sits partially on top of it, and then you've got the base of my monitor. So you've got edge of the desk, my Cintiq, and then I've got my monitor base, and then my keyboard plops off my monitor base on top of my Intuos. So it's about 18 inches from where my sternum is at to the base of the monitor. About 18 inches of space there where I can fit both my keyboard and my 6x9 Intuos, and that's all the space that I need. And then I've got a really fancy Intuos art pen that has 2 transponders in it, so that it can recognize when I'm spinning in 3 dimensions. So because it's got the 2 transponders, it has tilt control, because the board will read where both of those locations are at the same time. So when I rotate the brush, it can tell where those 2 points are in relation to each other. So I can have a 3D space, which allows me to do tilt and spin like this brush that we're using. It can spin because at one point here and at one point in the other, it can tell where it's at. So really useful with the type of environment, like the type of like a wilderness painting that I do, like mountains, and very Bob Ross is I learned how to paint environments by watching a shitload of Bob Ross. I've been watching Bob Ross since I was 5, and it wasn't until about 6-7 some odd years ago that I realized that everything that he's doing on camera I can do with a digital pen. So I did about 100 some odd Bob Ross paintings in a year to really lock in the technique, and once I locked it in, I own it now. So now I've been integrating it into my professional work ever since. Love Bob Ross, so peaceful. He was the original art streamer, you know. Love me those episodes. He still streams like both Twitch and YouTube play a lot of his content. That going. Let's do like that. Let's do like that. Any lurkers out there? I do this 6 days a week. Either Eberron cartography or NPC tokens or like ship tokens for Spelljammer or book covers, interior page art. But yep, 6 days a week, at least 100 minutes a day. And so like, subscribe, be welcome to consume some hours of content. I'm still building the channel, and this is, it's a slow grind. It's not, you know, witty repartee like top 10 magic items for a Carnathy Deathmonger to use or whatever. It's slow grind, pixel production, showing how we make RPGs, like the process and the time invested to produce them. So it's certainly not snappy content. So folks liking and subscribing certainly helps, and it's appreciated. That's my plug for the moment, so don't mind me shilling myself. I want to have a ripple like that. Maybe like that. I can push into here. Maybe like that. That's probably sufficient. And then we can go back through here. This. Like that. Thank you for watching while I'm working on my games and content too. Helps me to focus. Glad to hear it. It tries to be a pretty chillax channel. How do I plan my maps? I've had, if you check out the prior content that I produced, this is like I think this is the third or fourth iteration of this particular map that we've had. I streamed the initial build of it, then I play tested it. And then off the feedback from the players that came through, that I DM my own work first, and then I outsource my stuff for others to DM. So my work. This is the first adventure that I published. So yeah. So character options that I produce, like the color mana spell point variant rules and the martial power system that I'm developing right now. Character focusing stuff doesn't really require an external DM to play test to make work, but an adventure does, because I'm pretty much selling it to DMs, right? So I need to make sure that DMs grok it when I build it. So I initially run the game myself as a DM, and once we're happy with how it flows through with a number of different teams, then we can build it out, and then we start passing out to DMs. We've had 3 DMs working on it so far, and then we go through the editing process and blah blah blah. But so I start off with the initial idea of what the map should be, and then it goes through refinements as teams go through the map and point out, like, where was it fun, where was it not fun, strategic choke points, was this problematic, was this frustrating, blah blah blah. Go through all that process and continue to refine the map until it's at a place where it's fun to play. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. There's 5 ways into the dungeon. And once you're in the dungeon, there's basically 3 different environments. There's the flooded water. There's a clean air environment where the mercenaries are keeping any kind of poison away so they can enjoy food and sleep without threat. And then there's this dirty path where the poison of the Mabar is seeping into Karnath reality, and the mixing is destroying the environment. So it's caused by this this fog effect that limits visibility, so that the team has claustrophobia during the entire encounter, during the entire campaign. While they're in the manifest zone, there's a thick fog that limits how far away they can see at all, which allows a DM to basically have just like a blank grid that characters are just on as they move through the environment. And as they find new things, like in the surface above inside the manifest zone, the DM can just drop, like, here's a clump of trees, or like, here's a broken down gazebo, or here's an open pit. It just shows up because you can't see it before then. So the DM can just like do these like little encounter vignettes where these little chunks of terrain and creatures that are inside of that terrain, the characters can deal on like a sort of episodic basis, and the DM can start throwing creatures at you. Like, you can have a stream of ghouls coming at your characters, like Diablo styles. Have a stream of them coming your way, and if you hack your way through the undead, you'll get to the pit where they're coming out of. You throw some phosphorus into the pit, and then you shut down that spawn point, and then you can keep moving. And there's large maps like a cemetery, a fortress, and then a gatehouse, that like these 3 different maps that the characters can interact with, either mercenaries or fight undead. So you can lead them from one area to another with these little battle vignettes, and once they arrive at the set piece, then it's another large map environment. Like the cemetery is like 55 by 55 inches, and the flooded the gatehouse, I think, is like 30 by 30. And again, we break them all up in like these 10 by 10 chunks so that they can be tiled on a game table if you play in Meat Space, but they all fit pretty easily inside of a virtual tabletop environment. So 75 by 75 squares is a bit of a lift for some weaker computers, but you can also load in we'll have all the color assets broken up into pieces as well. So if your computer doesn't have the processing power to be able to chug out 70 some odd inches of game space, you can break it up, continue to break it up into like a scene by scene basis from room to room. And you'll see that when we actually build out the pages. The way that we'll build the pages is that we'll have that, like, each particular room and like surrounding hallways moving from room to room to room. So each 2-page spread is going to be talking about one specific like numbered area location, and then the next is on the next 2 pages. So when you turn if it were to be a physical book, you'd be able to turn the page, and with each page turn, we're talking about this particular section, like this room here, all the stuff that goes on with that. Turn the page, it's another room. On a PDF, you'll be able to have a 2-page spread just sitting open on your computer. So hopefully, if we can build it right, we'll be able to have a really like command. What do they call it? Console, a control panel. That's it. In the OSR BECME games circles, they call it control panel adventures, where everything fits on like either an 8.5 and 11 in the landscape orientation, or like an 11 by 17 and a landscape orientation, or having 8.5 and 11 by 8.5 and 11 two facing pages. It gives you a lot of real estate on a page to talk about any particular small space that characters are moving through as part of the adventure. So I'm hoping to be able to duplicate that effect with this, so that each two-page spread themselves becomes something cool to look at unto themselves. And that should hopefully set us up to get comfortable with biting off chunks of information that way, so that I can move into doing, like, say, one-page dungeons, creating a single page encounter on an 11 by 17 page. That'll be both full color and black and white, so that if you purchase it, you can just put in a page of legal document, an 11 by 17 legal document, and then feed that through your printer. On the back end, it comes out as a 10 by 16 space that has the map and all the commentary about that map. So, but I don't want to use an 11 by 17 format inside of this document, because it's not, like, traditional. So I'm sticking with the 8.5 by 11 format, and just assuming that's going to be that people will be looking at two-page spreads at a time while they do it. So hopefully that'll all pan out okay. It's going to prevent me from putting maps in the center of the document like I really want to do, and then have text floating around it. I'll have to have each map space on like the left-hand page, and then just pontificate about it on the facing page. But I think that format should work fine. It's not ultimately what I want to do. I want to make the one-page dungeons different from that, like I was saying just now. But I'm going to ease into it. But once I start getting into building one-page dungeons, I could be as system as agnostic as I want. Though I certainly love 5e. It's by far my favorite version of the game to date. Despite missing components like minion control and commanding and running your own kingdom, which was a big part of BECME, and prestige classes was my other real love, which was 3rd edition. Both of those things have been stripped out of 5e, which makes me sad, but it also allows me to build those tools. So I'm also building the ability to express those ideas. If I can express them through 5e, then I can express them in different systems as well. And I'm really interested in Essence 20, which is the system that published, that's Renegade Games, which did Transformers, G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, all the licensed game titles, toy titles from Wizards. They use. I like their D20 games in general. So I don't play any of them, but from a game design perspective, I enjoy what they are. So if I were to exit 5e, I'd consider working with Renegade. We'll see. We'll see where the future takes us. Kind of waiting to see how Wizards plays out with DMsGuild, to see where my next long-term move is going to be. But before one D&D happens, or D&D next, or whatever it is that they're trying to do, I'll just keep doing this. And I should be able to finish all my current projects before they finish theirs. And then once they do, we'll know where we need to move next. So I feel like during this whole debacle
what's going on with the licensing, what's going on with the game. I feel fairly protected in all that process, where it doesn't seem like anything that I'm doing is being directly affected yet. I am concerned about my Dragonlance rebuild, so I might have to hold off on that for a little bit and focus on like kingdoms and guilds, or I don't know. We'll see what I work on next. But I've still got 3 books. I've got this book, the Spellgenerator book, and the Martial Powers book in the pipeline. And those should all be done by the time 1 D&D comes out, and then I'll know what the next move is. I'm always working on some sort of art assets, so that'll never change. There we go. That feels pretty good. I got this electronic heating pad to keep my coffee hot, because it keeps getting cold because I don't pay a lot of attention to it while I'm painting, other than when my timer pops. But I don't know if it's any good. Doesn't I am questioning the quality of heat being produced by this little heating pad. We'll see. I'll give it the rest of the day, and if it isn't panning out, then I'm gonna throw it away. I like how it sits. It sits really nicely on my desktop. It's in a non-threatening position, and it's rock resistant. So like I'm less likely to knock over my coffee mug by wild gesturing than I was previously. So it has merit. I just don't know if it keeps my shit warm. So we'll find out. Is my sound balance okay? I was futzing with the music to voice ratio the other day, and I think it's turning out okay now. Just want to make sure that I'm not fighting the background sound, because I think the sound helps a lot, because I have these bursts of silence, natural resting places in the conversation, as it were, and it's just nice to have some just music running around in the background. Yay, coffee! Coffee is my is my beverage of choice. I've got I play in a game basically every other week, Saturday afternoon, and that is during when I play D&D is the one time that I will drink. Typically, the one time I drink soda. I'll drink lemonade and Robert Palmer's and stuff like that while I'm out at a restaurant or something, and I will drink Coca-Cola while I'm in a movie theater. But at home, it's almost always just black coffee. And when I DM, black coffee. But when I play, when I'm an actual player at a table, I used to do Mountain Dew for the memes, but my heart's always been with Coca-Cola. It's the cokiest. out and mix in with what we got going on over here. Finished watching 1923 with my gal this weekend. That is a great show. That's on Paramount. It's a prequel to Yellowstone, which apparently is a popular show on, Paramount or NBC or whatever it is. And it's got two prequels. It's got 1923, which we just finished watching. It also has 1883, which we haven't seen yet. And then there's the actual Yellowstone show. Yellowstone's got Kevin Costner in it. 1923 has Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, and 1883 has Sam Elliott. So they're throwing some fun actors into these shows, and they're good. It's Montana cattle rustling, basically. Good show, great scripting. Blending these things together in waves. Just like that. No, that was a step too far. There. Smooth that all in there like that. Now back to this. What is this, 40? 60. 60% strength, smudge brush. Is 7. Oh my god, it's only 7:10. I've got 40 minutes to go. That's awesome. Let's see. How's my heating pad working? Pretty fucking poorly. Heating pad, you need to step up your game, son, or else I'm going to return you to the pits of hell. You have one purpose, demon. It's to keep my coffee warm. Perform or suffer. You can't let technology demons have any kind of leeway. Otherwise, they'll just short out and glitch for you forever. And it's not like it's cruel being mean to tech demons, because I mean they have the opportunity to manifest in a physical space and enjoy physical reality. Even though they have limited ability to engage with it, they get to engage with it. It's not like they're completely ephemeral while this happens. So they're benefiting from it. They wouldn't be here if they didn't like it. That sounds like I'm blaming the abused, but they are demons after all. So. And while I agree with Planescape that there can be good demons and there can definitely be bad angels, it's we're not playing some grimdark fantasy here. We're just talking about keeping my coffee mug warm. So we got to keep shit in perspective. Third and final season of Picard is also really kick-ass. I'm really enjoying. This is probably my favorite Star Trek TV show to date. I was a big Next Generation fan, and I had a casual relationship with Deep Space Nine. But Picard is by far, I think, the best Trek show to come out in a long time. That melt into the space. And I'll eventually merge this down and start a new layer again. I like that merging. I like that blending in like that. Feels right. Yeah, it doesn't have to be dramatic. Yeah, good stuff. Just good stuff. Very much not cowboy, space cowboys like the original Star Trek was. It's funny how much of a diplomacy mission Star Trek is supposed to be all about, and their first presentation of it is a punch happy cowboy. I mean, it's so great. It's so great. But yeah, TNG was always like stuff that they did in TNG is like, it feels classic, almost trope-like. But there wasn't a lot of people doing diplomatic relations with alien life and stuff at that time. So TNG kind of was pioneering its own social pillar of encounters. Like there's plenty of combat and stuff going on, but it was probably 80% mix of social and exploration adventuring with the threat of combat. That's the thing about D&D or role-playing games, is that when you have these different pillars like they have presented in D&D of combat, social, and exploration, the social and the exploration encounters gain weight because of the threat of combat at the back end of it. Like if this conversation doesn't go well, somebody could lose an arm, that sort of thing. That's a good underlying premise to have behind the encounters that you create as a DM, to have that present threat of, if this doesn't go well, this is what will happen. And, if players want combat, if that's why they're there, then these different scenarios are just basically lead-ins to the next combat scenario. But as a DM, I generally prefer exploration over anything else. But I also include, like, I I don't define the social pillar as like doing diplomacy and like asking questions of NPCs. To me, that's exploration. You're using your social skills to explore the game and information that the creatures inside of the game knows. To me, the social pillar is like role playing. Like, what's my background? Am I flirting with this other character at the table through my character? That sort of thing. That's the social pillar to me. And it technically doesn't have any XP value associated with it. Like, you know, whether my character is tormented about the current the current circumstances in the game or not because my background is irrelevant to the amount of experience points I'm going to get, unless your DM specifically hands out role-playing experience. But that is not the kind of DM that I am, so I don't think that way as a player either. So technically there's only two pillars of gaining experience inside of the game, which is exploration and combat. So breaking it down that way, I'm like 80% exploration, either environmentally or through conversation, and then about 20 like 15% combat and like a paltry 5% on like the actual social like background and character depth and stuff. I don't care about your character's background. I present the environment, the adventure, the plot hooks, and what the NPC's investment into the game is. It's the player's job, if they choose to have a character backstory, it's their job to make it work with the story that the DM has provided, at least in my opinion. Like it's not the DM's job to cater a character's story into the adventure. It is the player's challenge to inject their character into the story that's at hand. It's like, how would Phil deal with an apocalypse? That's my job to figure out how Phil deals with an apocalypse. The DM doesn't have to give a crap at all. The DM is running an apocalypse and he is busy. So if I want this to be a satisfying, cathartic exploration of my own personal trauma through my character's interaction with zombie refugees, then that's on me. I don't know if that's the current mentality of where the bulk of 5e players are at, but that's the attitude that I carried over from 3rd edition and earlier editions. And so far, my rate of attrition is incredibly low, which means that the amount of challenges that I present and the way that I'm presenting the campaign world is accommodating to players, no matter what their own personal agenda with developing a character may be. But if it's on the characters to interact with the environment and to make their character's story work with the adventure, that means that the player is going to be more invested in understanding what the fuck is going on inside of the adventure, so that they can see where the opportunities are for the characters to work together. And I'm a big fan of character drama. But my preferred approach to it is that, like, no secrets from each other as players. In fact, let other players know what your character's secrets are so that they can work with you as improvisation artists to create scenarios where those secrets are being ground against. That everyone at the table knows what the secret is, but no one says what the secret is because it's a secret that all the players out of game understand. And so they get to see how those secrets appear inside of the game, and you get to grind on each other. Like that's probably not the right way to put that. You get to grind each other's gears because you know this character has like in one of our campaigns, one of the players' character was a rogue who had narcolepsy. Whenever he got surprised, he would get startled and pass out. So it's just a thing that happened, but it stuck as a team that it was just funny that would happen. So it just became his deal that if he was ever caught inside of a surprise round, he couldn't react or anything because he's passing out from fear. So they'd always have to spend time to get the rogue back up and running so that they can have a sneak attacker working with them. And it was self-inflicted drama because everybody on the team was in on the joke, and it was just part of that adventuring team's culture. And everyone at the table as players were into it as just an aspect of the role-playing thing. And it just became a running joke that everyone just loved. And they could start, anticipating that the rogue is going to pass out. So keep a wheelbarrow on hand so he could fall into it so they could run away with him if they needed to. That sort of shit. It was great. It was silliness, but it's like if everyone's on the same page and everyone knows what's going on with each other's characters, they can start ribbing each other that way and making a fun little, something that's amusing to talk about, That's ultimately what you're trying to do, build fun memories. And the more you allow others in on where you see your character going with something, the more they can riff off of it and build a unique story for you. And the DM doesn't have to do anything. Because the DM's like, yeah, here's an elven warrior, and it's like, oh, well, all of a sudden they've got 15 snappy things they want to say to this elven warrior. And one of them has a guff against elves in general, and another one has guffs against warriors in general. And now they're all starting to basically collaborate and talking trash to this guy. That's just good D&D. That's just good role playing. And the DM shouldn't have to. I mean, if the player has a suggestion about hey, I'm trying to pull this thing off of this character, if the DM can work it into the story, fine. But I don't think the DM is obligated to do that at all. Again, that's your choice for choosing that background. You figure it out. Which is why session 0 is so important, so that the players can understand what kind of an adventure they're getting into. So if they choose to have some sort of an integrated backstory, they're properly advised. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling. Don't mind me. Kind of rambling. But I love this stuff. It's fun. Yeah, well, there's not a lot of procedural steps in Dungeons and Dragons currently. Like in Beckme, there was a huge affair about this is first thing you do is you roll your d6, and on a 1 on a 6 there's going to be a random encounter, and check your random encounter table to see what kind of a creature it is, and then the DM can roll again to see how many turns from now is that monster going to show up. And in Beckme, a turn was 10 minutes, and here's all the things that you can do within the time frame. You can search a room, or you can loot a room worth of treasure, or you can search a wall for secret doors. There's all these procedural things that took a turn to perform. Every 5 turns you have to take a break for a turn, so every hour had 5 actions, and then 1 break period. That was your short rest. That's kind of where short rests came from, but it didn't get properly integrated into 5e because none of that dungeon procedural process remains in the current state of the game. All the tropes that build D&D as it is aren't really present in the current version of D&D. It's if you started with 5e, you're gonna have it's kind of a crapshoot if you even know how to run a hex. If you know how to run a hex crawl or procedural random dungeon adventuring and stuff like that. It's those tools are kind of are pretty sparse. That was a ramble. Sorry, don't know if that was even relevant. Beckme. Hold on. New pin chat. Got it. Thanks. Beckme is BECMI. Beckme stands for Basic, Expert, Companion, Master, Immortal. It's the 5 tiers of play in D&D, the original box set Dungeons and Dragons. Before Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was even created back in the 70s. It started off with the basic set, which was levels 1 to 3. And then the Expert series was level 4 to 15. And then the Companion series was, I think, 15 to... I want to say 15 to 25. And then I think Master was like level 25 to 40. And then the Immortal game series, which was so different from the rest of D&D, was barely the same game. But at these different tiers, at level 1 to 3, it was just raw dungeon crawling. The only thing that you had to do was dungeon crawl, get back to the surface, cash in your loot, gain some weapons and additional resources, and go back in. And by the time you hit 4th level, you're now starting to make a name for yourself. So they create the Expert box set, which starts talking about, hey, you've got enough reputation as an adventurer that people are interested in following you now. So let's talk about minion and like hireling mechanics and building an empire. So from level 4 to 15, you start building a fief or a barony or a kingdom for your character. And the adventuring shifts focus from I'm diving down this dungeon to collect magic items to I've got 10,000 people in this 20-mile area that I have to protect. So it's the challenges that's coming out of the wilderness that's threatening them that I need to dive into the wilderness to remove as a threat from my farmland. So the scope of adventure changes there. And then in the companion series, you're basically empire building, where I've now amassed to the scale of I've got 20,000 soldiers that are willing to follow me directly into hell. So let's go fight demons in hell for a while and build a kingdom out of it. And then you get to the master level, where you've basically created a new foothold in reality that you're brokering with angels and demons at this point, and trying to save your own particular reality from invasion or whatever. And then beyond that is, well, I've now conquered my own reality. I'm going to start building new realities, so I become immortal as a god of my own realm. And now I start fighting other immortals for the attention of spirit devotion, of mortal creatures' devotion to my worship, or my domain, as it were. So those are the 5 tiers of play that were originally introduced in Dungeons and Dragons from like 70, I want to say like from 74 to like 89 is the amount of time I think it took to come up with those 5 boxes. And but the bread and butter, like the core of like old school, like classic D&D, is basic expert. BX is what they call that. And that's kind of locked in the level 1 to 20 sort of frame of game. Like there wasn't much need to go beyond 20 levels in scales, because the core of the game was in that BX. Like the difference between companion and masters versus expert was basically scale. So like it's just a larger empire, larger stakes that you're fighting, larger threats at a larger scale of the world. But ultimately, it was the same action loop at that point. Run an organization, amass bodies to help you maintain control over the zone of geography, expand and react. Is basically how expert works, which is how companion works, which is how masters work. So all three of those tiers of play kind of boil down to that X inside of the BX system, or just BE out of the BECME. And then Immortals was different enough that it kind of holds its own. But a lot of us Longtooths that have been around for a few decades, that's the cradle that we were born in, and so when you see a lot of, white-haired people shaking their fists at the state of the game currently, it's because everything about the game used to curve into these assumptions that the reason you were diving into a dungeon at level 1 is because you're aspiring to run a stronghold at level 7. Like you're amassing your wealth so that you can afford mercenaries. That's the whole purpose of gaining the gold, is to create the stockpile so you can create your own kingdom. Because that was luxury. That's like when you've really made it as an adventurer, you have your own kingdom. like Conan's sitting on his throne. And the whole game ecology and all the actions that you could take inside of the game and all the challenges that the DM would put against you in a dungeon crawl was under this assumption that like down the road this guy's going to be running a kingdom. So every dungeon that you went into was a potential prospect for something like, do I want to take this place over? Is this going to be my lair someday? So not only are you clearing out the dungeon to collect wealth for yourself and to gain levels, but to stake out a real estate claim. If I can control the monsters in this area, then I can effectively take stewardship of this area. And I can either form alliances with the creatures to maintain the place as I choose, or I'm going to bring in mercenaries and replace the creatures that are there to create my own fortress. That's the game. So adventures to save the world and stuff like that was only relevant because I had so much stuff in this world. That's what was interesting about Planescape and Spelljammer coming into this scenario. It's like, I can bail on this world if I want. I don't have to be committed to it. Okay. If things go sideways, I'm going to go someplace else, And I think that's what started destabilizing the kingdom style of play. Honestly, I think the narrative kind of just goaded itself, where you don't have to be committed to a region anymore. You can just plain hop away from it and go start over someplace else. So you become like this vagabond Ronin for your entire 20 level career. Like, yeah, I don't really have a home. Everywhere I go burns to the ground because of the monsters that I'm fighting and the vendettas that are against me. So I have to keep moving. Otherwise, this reality is going to get destroyed. That's kind of what 5e is like. Well, let's be honest. 5e is, I'm going to run this box set and I'm going to run this book adventure. And when that book adventure is done, I'm going to retire the characters and we're going to move on to the next published adventure. They don't really built the curve into each other, and they aren't episodic at all. They're, when your adventure goes from like level 1 to 8, and then your next one goes from like 5 to 15. If you can figure out a way to make those two things work together, you basically got a campaign that goes from level 1 to 15, and then you're done. And now it's time to start a new character because there isn't really any content other than Tomb of Annihilation to take you past level 15. So, like, there's nothing left to do with it. Unless you're the kind of DM that can take the content that's been provided and extrapolate higher level play with it. But now you have the problem of, what am I supposed to do with my characters at that level? They don't have a purpose. There's no purpose other than getting 9th level spells to getting to the 17th level. Like, everything that you do in D&D, you can do at 10th level. You don't need higher levels. And I believe they were originally considering limiting the game to only 10 levels. Because that's kind of like where the sweet spot of game balance is at in 5e. But tradition demands 20 levels. And that tradition was established by basically 3rd edition. In prior editions, there was no level cap. Like 4th edition went to 30 levels, but like 2nd edition had 30 levels as well, but provided content for beyond 30 levels. It just wasn't necessary normally. Very, very different games. But all this stuff is like the heritage of the D&D culture. Like Enigma is going Stormwreck Island, Storm King's Thunder against the Giant, Stream of the Red Wizards. Right on. I don't know what Enigma is. Is that a third-party publisher or? The Dreams of the Red Wizard. It's from Adventurers League. No, I mean, what's Enigma? Like, Enigma is going blank, blank, blank. Like, is Enigma like a Let's Play stream, or is Enigma a third-party content producer that's providing a guide to curve from one to the next? Oh, your friend. Right on. Awesome. That is a great course then. Yeah, curving those things, like building those things so they all work together. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. And it'd be cool if Wizards provided guidance on how to do that stuff. Like, here's ideas to consider, you know? But if your DM has the chops to be able to build that for themselves, then that's freaking amazing. Nice. That's fantastic. That's good content. Like how-tos and stuff. Yeah. People need that stuff. It's valuable. So smash luck to that guy. Putting that all together like that. There we go. Yo, 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 yo. This song reminds me of the old Toonami soundtracks. I'm a big Toonami fan. I'm a big anime fan in general, at least the older stuff. But Toonami was on Cartoon Network, and it would play like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon and Gundams and stuff like that. But it had a bunch of really great EDM, like treble bass, bass and drums sort of EDM music in the earlier stages of that in the early 2000s. Good music, still good stuff. You can look up Toonami OSTs, and there's some great freaking music. But the bass they've got rolling here, yom 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 yom. That reminds me of a lot of the Gundam tracks that they had on Toonami at the time. I think it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't similarly inspired music. Let's do that curve. What's up? Cooper Dragon. Uh-oh. Sometimes it's hard to catch those edits. I gotta say, another one of the reasons why I like doing my own page layouts and doing my own artwork. Well, I can. I mean, I know that's I'm in rare air that I have the ability to do that at all. But one of the side benefits from being able to do that is I end up looking at the text on the page while I'm painting the art that goes on that page. So I spend a lot of time just staring at the text, which makes me think about it. It's like, could I be wording like I'm constantly thinking like, could I be wording this better? Is this really getting the point across? And it gives me a chance to futz with the text a little bit now and again. But it also lets me catch a shitload of little little typos. I mean, I spend the money on an editor. You got to have an editor. If you have a big project, you should have an editor because you can get lost in the sauce. But still, even after editing and handing me back the manuscript and said, "Here you go," it's like there's this process of just fiddling with it, and that fiddling intensifies when you do your own page layouts and your own art, because you spend so much more time on the actual page that people are going to maybe spend a minute on. But I can spend 20 hours on a single page and get really intimately familiar with the text that's on that page. And so by the time I'm done with the artwork for that page, I'm pretty damn confident that the text that's on that page is supposed to be there. And it makes me feel just that much more confident about the work that I put out, because I really have to sit with it for a long time. And if something starts to grow in my belly, it's like there's something wrong here. It gives me an opportunity to find what that wrongness is and correct it before I publish it and start asking people for money, which is another reason why I make everything that I do 100% free preview. Because if something gets through all that process and still ends up not resonating with the community, and people are starting to ask questions like, why is X, Y, and Z? They didn't have to pay any money to find out if there's a problem or not. And I have the opportunity to fix it. And then they can see that it's been fixed. And they're like, well, yeah, Phil fixes his shit. I will now invest in him. Like it's an ongoing, walk your talk and prove what you're doing. I think that integrity is basically what people are craving. Like from small publishers, we can afford integrity. We don't have any shareholders, so the choices that we make are heart-driven. I think that's really important. I think that's going to be even more and more important as fake culture and like the vapidness of social media impression. Like, is this the life? Is this the life that I'm actually leading, or did I rent a jet airplane? A studio that has a fake, interior of a jet setup for me to take photos in for $100 an hour. And now that I've done my images, I can leave and go back to my crappy lifestyle that I hide from you. Like, now I've got everything up front here for you to look at. I'm not hiding anything here. You can see everything that I'm doing. Transparency, legitimacy, sincerity, integrity. I think that's the value in individual content producers. Like with AI being able to spit out an image in 15 seconds that might take me 15 hours to produce. The only reason why you would invest in those 15 hours that I'm investing in is because you're investing in the quality of integrity that I'm bringing to that product. I suspect that's where things are going, and that's that quote-unquote influencer effect that you can't fake integrity. So I think that's really exciting, and I think that's like that's the route. That is the way, as it were, where I think artists like myself, that's the space that we're going to be in online. I think it's the only place. I think it's the only way that we can stand out compared to the tech that can just produce. But there's no heart behind that process. Hard rambles again. I'm a green dragon and I'm a sorcerer. Green dragons should be sorcerers. I think that makes nothing but sense. Illustrate my own images. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You aren't getting an image and then figuring out how can it work with whatever it is that you're doing. Or now I have to create a new thing to make like this picture work that I got. Which has always been a problem for most producers. Like most content producers, they find stock art and then they try to create something that makes sense with that stock art. And that's kind of what AI is about. It's like you have You have no control over what that computer is going to make, and you can't have it just like change the angle a little bit. Like, can you give that guy a smile instead? Like, it's not there yet. It might be eventually, but that customization to integrate what the images are to the body of the work that the images are being inserted with is still something that is unique to the human capability. And even when that can be reproduced digitally, then it comes down to composition. Like, how are you putting these things together and why? And once the computer is strong enough to be able to create those whys, hows, in an integrated image, then it comes down to no one sees the process that goes on behind it. Like, how did the computer spit out this 30-page adventure with integrated maps, images, stat blocks, and description text for you to read to your players? Now it's an issue of how the fuck do you do that? Because the computer isn't really lifting the hood to explain to you the process that goes behind it. Now instead of being, if you don't want to be completely reliant on a machine providing you all your story beats, now you have to learn to train your mind to do that imagination yourself. And that, again, is where value for the individual artist that's producing and sharing content, that's where they come in. There's always value in being able to connect with people with where they're at. Because the computer's only going to be where it's at, and it can't compromise on that for you. It can't empathize with what your struggle is at the moment. It can't walk through a process with you. It can't be there celebrating with you when you figure that thing out. But that doesn't have a lot of commercial value. What's going on with my timer? It feels like it's a little too quiet. Yep, 39 seconds, of course. I know my time. So far, so good, man. This thing is coming along. I love doing these ripples. This might actually be done. This water might be done this week. I'll have time on Thursday working on it as well. And when I need to take a mental break, I can work on this a little bit off stage. It's coming along. I don't mind whatever time it takes to get done because I love the result. So I've got 10 minutes. I got 10 minutes left until my day job. I work from home, so I can log out here and then log into my job. Work that, log out for lunch, jump on stream if I feel like it. Kick an hour there, log out, log back into my work, do that, 5 o'clock, check out, drop back into doing art production. Take a break when my gal shows up when she does. But I have a dentist appointment today, so I don't get to do martial power Monday. I have to do martial powers tomorrow on Tuesday. And I honestly don't know what I'm planning on doing for martial powers tomorrow. Normally I like to do some sort of... Oh, that's right. Well, we're converting the 4E monster rules. Like Striker, Artillery, Controller, Lurker. We're taking those different 6 roles that they have in 4th edition for monsters, and we're converting that. We're creating kits of powers that you can staple onto monsters as like a template. It's like if I want this kobold to be a striker, you'll get these powers. If I want the striker to be an artillerist, you'll get these powers. If I want that kobold to be a controller, blah, 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 blah. We're building out kits of like 5 powers that we can use to define what those different roles are. So tomorrow, when we do our Martial Powers lunch stream on Tuesday, we'll continue building out those different roles for creatures so that DMs can also use the Martial Power system that we've been developing as character options. The DM can build, like we're creating tools to make it easy for DMs to build kits. We call them kits of powers. The kit is the selection of powers that a character chooses at their level. Like to get up to 16 powers at 20th level. So a 20th level kit contains 16 powers that you can change all your power, like prep casters can change what spells they know every day. The Martial Power system that we have allows you to know a power each level, but you can change all powers known when you gain a level. So when you change from level 19 to 20, you basically cash in your stack of powers and then you decide which ones you want to buy back into. Like if I don't want any changes this level, I just want to add a power, great. All you gotta do is just add a power and keep everything the same. But you can completely re-kit your character to have a completely different role in the party from level to level, depending on what powers you decide to learn for that during that level. So it stays super flexible and allows you to use the same character that you can fall in love with, but allow you to continue redefining, reinventing who they are and what role they play in the team, as different characters could change over time. Different players join the table. The dynamics and the team can change as you gain levels. So being flexible and fluid and being able to change how you help the team as a martial character is important, because once the full casters gain their utility, it's easy for them to take over the game. And if you can't flex on what your character is capable of adding to the table, once your wizard starts casting fly on everybody, maybe I want to think about switching out to a ranged weapon instead of, the sentinel build that we have, because we're not doing a lot of groundwork. I don't need trip attacks so much, maybe, whatever it is. It's like you have that flexibility. But yeah, we'll be investing time in building out the NPC creature roles more. We did that last week, and I'm really looking forward to continuing that. So that's what we'll do tomorrow. I'll be back tonight. I'm starting to do my wrap up, apparently. So wrapping up for the night, I'm going to push some pixels here for another few minutes, but I'll be back in approximately, I think I'll be back at maybe 6 o'clock Seattle time, which will be 9 o'clock Eastern Coast. And we'll put in 2 hours we'll probably do NPC token art for Spelljammer tonight. And then we'll be back tomorrow morning, and we'll probably continue Spelljammer token production. We got a lot of NPC tokens that we got to build for the Light of Zaraxis conversion that we're doing using the Spelljammer mechanics that we've developed. So we got a lot of moving pieces, and it's a pretty big production, but it's thorough. It's certainly thorough. So that's what we'll be doing tonight for probably 100 minutes or so, maybe 2 hours. And then I'll be spending the rest of the night while I'm off camera, fighting my way through the text of the combat scaling mechanics that we have for Spelljammer. I'm looking forward to sharing those once I finalize the language on them. I've got ideas of how it should look, but it's still a work in progress. But when my alarm pops, it's time for me to go. So I'll be very abrupt in saying goodbye when that alarm pops. So just giving you guys a heads up, we're like a few minutes away from being done for the day. Or for this morning anyway. But we'll be back tomorrow morning again for another 100-ish minutes of art production. And we'll be working on, like I said, Spelljammer, NPC, Light of Zaraxis NPC token production for VTT as well as at table. So if there's any lurkers out there, like, subscribe, hit the bell on the channel. We do this almost every day. Love to have you on board with me. Check out some of the books I have down in the description down below. They're all 100% free preview. Most of them come with some sort of an asset, like either tokens, charts, tables, additional content lists, and stuff that make that gives you more value than just the free download does. But if you like the work, support the channel. It's appreciated, very much so. A lot of my work is almost at a gold status bestseller. So. I think potentially by the end of the year, some of those books are going to be gold. Like Spellpoint Warlocks is well, as a pay what you want, it's well on its way to gold. The 5-color mana Spellpoint variant rule core mechanics, that's about 60 some odd sales away from going gold as well. So don't buy it if it's not useful to you, but if it's cool shit and you like it and you want to support it, it's certainly appreciated. But again, I only want you buying stuff that's useful. If it has zero value to you, take a look at it, acknowledge the integrity of the work that I'm doing, and stick around for when I do produce something that you do want. God, I love doing this. This is such satisfying work. I love doing it. It's so much fun. So far, so good. I'm really happy with this, and I think I can work on some of these highlights a little bit more. But overall, structurally, I like this. I like how this skin is floating along the top of the skin, top of it, like a bone broth almost. I think that's appropriate for the undead nature of where we're at. But I am ecstatic with how this is looking. This is so satisfying. And God, we care. Look how much area we're covering today. This is great. We're really clipping along now. Really, really clipping along. I know I'll be doing this. I should be in this area by Thursday. And so I'll have my Thursday stream up here. I'm thinking this upcoming Saturday I'm going to spend time on this map as well, just to make sure I lock that down and can move on to the next phase of texturing. Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Thanks for showing up and hanging out with me. Good times. Love blending those things together. It's so cool. There you go. God damn, this stuff's cool. All right, guy. I'm out of here for the day. I'm going to be back in approximately 10 hours, and we'll do some more. We'll do some NPC artwork tonight. But until then, I hope you guys have a great day. We'll do martial powers tomorrow on Tuesday. So we'll be back in a bit. So catch you guys when you get to. Laters.